This is Greg Canty here, and welcome to the Win Happy podcast. Stay tuned for interesting chats with interesting people about winning their lives and being happy at the same time. This show has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. Thanks for listening. On today's podcast, I chat with the very special Mary Doherty and her equally special son Aaron about her career and their lives together. Mary has spent 30 years with An Garda, a career that has seen her progress steadily up the ranks to the position of Detective Inspector, looking after the Protective Services Unit dealing with the worst of abuse and sexual crimes. Mary's son Aaron is a vibrant young man with Down syndrome, and this led to Mary getting very involved with Down Syndrome Ireland, campaigning for basic rights for all people in Ireland with Down syndrome. A car accident a couple of years ago turned her busy life upside down, leaving her with a broken neck and facing a long recovery period, which she is still in the middle of. While extremely traumatic, this accident has forced her to look at life through a different lens, and also give her a chance to recover from the vicarious trauma of working in such a mentally draining role. Let's hear from Mary and her son, Aaron. A huge welcome to the Win Happy podcast to Mary Doherty and Aaron Dighton. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Aaron?
Yes.
Okay. If I'm not, you better tell me, because I can take someone telling me you got it totally wrong, Greg.
Did you get it right? Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, it's a pleasure to be in the company of two of the busiest people in Ireland, because I know from your bio and all of the things that I see you and Aaron in particular, and I know Mary as well, and you've punched in a fairly busy life. Between the two of you, you have been fairly hectic, haven't you?
Yes. Are we busy? A little bit, but not too much.
And Mary, for the listener, and I'm going to ask you a few questions because I know some of the answers here, but just for the listeners, so they're kind of in the picture with our story. I know you through the work that we did a number of years back, and I suppose the ongoing work we do with Down Syndrome Ireland. What was your connection to Down Syndrome Ireland, and how did you get involved?
Well, Aaron was born in 2008, and obviously that introduced us to the whole world of Down syndrome. So we had been involved in our local branch, and then it came to his education, and we found out that Down syndrome wasn't recognised by the Department of Education. So we started on a journey in trying to rectify that. And then in 2013, I got voted in as the National President of Down Syndrome Ireland. And I held that post for 6 years.
And is that typical you, Mary? There's a problem, we need to sort it out, roll the sleeves up, and instead of giving out about it from the outside, we may as well jump right into the middle and start trying to make things happen.
That's it, Craig. Like solutions are always better.
Yeah,
and if you don't sort of get up and do it, and I was fortunate enough to be in a really great branch with some great people and very like-minded people, and then met like-minded people around the country, and we all came together. So yeah, it helps. So there's no point in sitting and complaining. We have to get up and do, don't we, Aaron? Yeah.
Yeah, well done, Aaron, and well done, Mary. That journey from realizing that there is a solution and you can be part of it, was that a fairly scary journey and one of lots of learning?
Huge learning, because I didn't know much about, well, I knew a bit about Down syndrome beforehand, but even the system, I suppose the whole political system opened up to me, the whole charity world opened up to me. I realized how slow everything actually works. And then even simple things like becoming the president, you're the voice of everybody. When I was part of the advocates, we were just a voice of parents and you're speaking for yourself. But when you become the president of an organization as wonderful as Down Syndrome Ireland, well, then you're speaking for everybody. And you have to change your voice to a certain extent, and you have to take in everybody else's account. So it was about listening to everybody and bringing everybody together.
Was that difficult? Because it goes from being, I need to solve my problem and find a solution for the situation that I'm in, to suddenly having to embrace the bigger problem and all the nuances of it and the bit of politics and all the different organizations you need to work with, and change doesn't happen overnight. You need to, nudge it along. Was that a big learning for you?
Yes. And I found it a big challenge. And I think the pace of it was probably the most challenging, because very early on in 2013, when we went and we spoke in the Dáil, we had a cross-party committee put in place. So everybody in government was in agreement that this needed to change, and I thought, well, then once everybody agrees, sure, it has to be straightforward. And it still took a number of years. It took two very brave families taking court cases against the Department of Education to actually start bringing it to fruition, and I can understand then, people who aren't involved in that side of it can't understand why it's not happening quick enough, and I can see why frustrations. And there was years, generations of children with Down syndrome who went through the education system without the help that they needed. So I can understand it was time sensitive and why it was frustration, but it was very challenging, and it was challenging to try and get that message across, and it was challenging to try and keep it moving, as well as, I had a full-time job and I had 3 children. Aaron's a middle child, so I had a younger one as well. And it was only when I finished up the presidency, I realised she was 3 when I started. She was 9 when I finished. She didn't know me any other way without being the president of Down Syndrome Ireland. And that's a huge chunk of her life where I was involved in that. So yes, it was very challenging, extremely worthwhile. And I enjoyed so much of it. My main thing was meeting adults in particular and children, but the adults with Down syndrome just amaze me, and they're all advocates and they're all fighting, trying to get heard and get seen. And I definitely think there's an improvement in that area. But that was the best part for me, was actually meeting the children and adults with Down syndrome.
And I presume, like the rest of us, Mary, unless you're personally introduced to that world because of your own circumstances, you know nothing about it really, do you? No. And it's a journey, that's never ending. And sometimes you feel, if you're out, that you don't even want to talk about it because people are nearly raising their eyes up and going, oh, not the Down syndrome again. But there's ongoing battles every day. And every time you get over one, there's another hurdle. And then you get over that, and then there's another hurdle. And people are just exhausted. And it's not, people talk about your child with Down syndrome. It's not your child with Down syndrome. It's the systems that are put in place that you have to fight for every single thing, just basic things. I remember when Aaron started school and watching a group of mums heading off to have coffee, as you do when your child starts school. And I was heading off to some department to fight because a chair he needed to sit on in school wasn't in place, that we had looked for in place a year beforehand. Do you know what I mean? It's those simple little things that just wear you down, and you feel like, you're always giving out or you're always arguing, which is tough. Which is tough because, no more than any of your children, they're there to enjoy, and they have their own personality and their own attributes and their own dreams. And you're spending half your time just fighting for basic stuff, and you're not giving them the attention they need just to be who they want to be. And in the same way that, you or I wouldn't have understood until you become part of that community, was part of the problem, in that the people you were dealing with had no idea either. They just hadn't a clue? Or is it bureaucracy? Is it lack of caring? What's the problem?
I think some of it's bureaucracy. Some of it is people assume, and particularly with Down syndrome, you'll be surprised the amount of people that presume that children with Down syndrome get everything, that they get everything they need, because of course it's Down syndrome. Sure, everybody knows about Down syndrome. Of course they're getting help. Sure, I see one of them in school, so they must be getting help. So it's just a lack of understanding, I suppose, from everybody else. And then it's the questions, why aren't they getting help? And I have to say, and it is a bit negative, but my general feeling when you were out there and you're fighting for all this stuff is, well, they have Down syndrome. They're not really going to contribute to a society. So why are we putting this big investment into it? Sure, aren't they great? And sure, they'll always be with you, and they're all lovely, and when you meet so many individuals with Down syndrome, which I think everybody should be exposed to, it's just like everybody else in the world. Some of them are cheeky, some of them are funny, some of them are quiet, some of them are angry, some of them don't want to talk to you. They're exactly the same as everybody else. They all have different personalities, and to just keep saying they and thinking that none of them can achieve, like, people with Down syndrome are out there proving everybody wrong every single day of the week, no matter what their achievements are. Like typically developing children, they'll all have different levels and they'll all achieve differently, and people with Down syndrome are no different.
Yeah, and is that a little bit of the "should God love us" approach we take to these things? And it's easy to say those things and in a way wrap them in our own little box in our head and put a bow on it, and isn't that grand?
Yes, and I think, and I still do have a problem with this, the fact that we're considered a charity. A charity is like something that people can give or not give if they feel like it. But people with Down syndrome aren't a charity. And I know why it's called a charity, but I do have a problem with that because it's not, they're people, and all they want is their rights, and their basic rights aren't even being looked after. So I think the fact that charities put after Down Syndrome Ireland, it's known as a charity, people say, they put it in the background and it's something we don't really have to deal with. If we have spare cash or if we have spare time, we look into it. But other than that, it's a charity where it's not really, you're actually talking about human rights.
Yeah, and maybe the word non-profit might be a better way of describing all of these organizations, because that's not the purpose of the organization. It's not to make profit. It's to, provide a service, and where there's a big gap and everything else. For the listener, Mary, I like them to get a sense of who the person is and what their background is. And I do that by asking a very simple question. Who the hell are you and where did you come from? So where did you come from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a place called Clondalkin in Dublin 22. I'm the eldest of 5. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. And funnily enough, I had a cousin with Down syndrome. She lived until she was 15. So I did know a bit about Down syndrome before Aaron was born. So went to school there, always wanted to be a nurse, but did my Leaving Cert at 16 and they weren't taking nurses in at 16 years of age. So mum and dad sent me off to do something else. And somehow after coming back from the States, I ended up applying for every job there was in the books and I got accepted into the Guards. And my grandfather and my uncle, who was my godfather, thought this was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. The idea of me being in the Guards, and I was too soft and I'd never even finished the training. So I quit my job, went down to Templemore to prove them wrong. And now I'm in it 30 years. And
what did your mum and dad do?
My dad was a fork truck driver. He worked in Cantwell and Corcoran. He was involved in the local soccer team, Clondalkin Celtic. He was always involved in something. He had the Residents Association up and running as well. And my mum was a stay-at-home mum with us.
I actually lived in Clondalkin for a while. I was in Bushville Drive, just behind the hotel there. I was there for 3 years. At the very late 80s, start of the 90s. I'd actually just moved in when the Veronica Guerin murder happened, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just literally driving home from work, the turnoff from the motorway into the estate, and I could see the car there that was all covered. And I think it was literally my first week there. If maybe our memory plays tricks with us, but I think it was a beautiful day. I remember this being a really, really sunny day, and just pulling in there and all of the news. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on here? So they thought it was the funniest thing ever, you joining the Guards. So you weren't a rules and regulations type of person, and they thought you were a little bit soft. So what was that like for you in Templemore, just from a numbers point of view? The girls versus the guys. What would the ratio?
There was 100 in our group, and there was 20 girls, 19 girls actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And would the training have been identical between males and the females?
Yeah, no, our training was the same. The only difference was our press ups. Because females can do different sort of types of press ups, but we still have to do the same amount. And all the exams, everything else was the same. Yeah, the running, everything was the same.
Did you find it tough?
No, I loved every minute of the training. I found it hard because I was a little bit older joining than everybody else. I found it hard with the curfews and the rules and regulations. I'm not really a rules type of person. I like to, the rules are there and you have to follow them. I'm definitely one of them. But there's always a room for maneuver. There's always, so yeah, I found that very hard. People telling me when to go to bed, when to eat, queuing for my food and all that. When I'd been used to, I'd lived in the States for a year. I had worked over here in the private sector. I had worked in the civil service over here. So I had my own money and all. So to go to that, to being told you can only eat between this time and this time and you can only do this. Yeah, it was a bit strange.
Yeah, that must have felt like it was ridiculous. It sounds like it's an institution that operates in a totally different way to what most normal people would experience, in a career or a work life.
Yeah, well, it wasn't your typical college, let's say. So it was more like the military. You had time to get up to go to class. You had time to have your food. You had to be in bed by, lights out by. The female dorms were on one side, the male dorms were the other, and you never meet ever, or there'd be, there's people out watching you. So yeah, it was unusual to say the least. But I definitely, there's parts of me that would have enjoyed my time down there. All right, yeah.
And as a career then, and beginning work in the real world as a guard, where did that happen for you?
As a student, I did my first 6 months up in Tallaght Garda Station, and then I got stationed out in Irishtown, which is out near Sandymount. So I did a few years there on what they call regular duties, and then I was office based for a number of years in Donnybrook, got promoted to sergeant, and started dealing with court cases in the courts in the Bridewell. Moved to Blanchardstown, dealing with everyday stuff, and then back in the courts, and then looked after child protection stuff, and then became a detective sergeant in a new unit called Protective Services Unit, and then got promoted to inspector, went out to Balbriggan, and then on to Santry, where I took over one of these Protective Services Unit and became a detective inspector. What
does that mean, a Protective Services Unit?
We deal with all sex crime, adults and children. And, we also look into human trafficking, serious domestic violence, and there's a few other strings to that bow there, yeah. But serious stuff.
What's your perspective on mankind, on the human spirit and nature? Because you've obviously been up close and personal with evil and horrible crimes and all of that. What's your perspective on human beings?
I would like to say that nothing ever surprises me because I've seen it all. But yeah, humans still manage to shock me in their treatment of one another and each other. But on the other side of that, it's, I'm always humbled and bowled over by people's strength and people's courage and resilience. And there are an awful lot of good people out there. And I suppose doing what I do, we're dealing with the worst of the worst. So you can get very easily caught up with that's the world, but there's actually not. There's more good than bad. And there is so much good out there and so many people willing to help and look after each other. But yet just the side that I happen to be in is it's very dark. And as we used to say, there's never a light day in work, because every case is a very serious and dark case.
And I know this is your opinion, but are people born bad, or is it circumstances and experiences that make them bad? And once people are in those horrible cycles, can they break out of them, or is that path just written for them?
I don't know if you're predisposed to evilness. Sometimes when you see something, you absolutely say yes. But then when you look into it, the circumstances, sometimes people arrived at that. And if you don't have an opportunity, sometimes the deck is stacked against people from even in the womb, before they're born. But can you change? I think there's a window for change, but I think society has to want to actually be willing to change. I think in Ireland as a society, in an awful lot of cases, drugs in particular, but I think we're an enabling society. We don't like to make the hard choices, and we don't like to say it's easy nearly just to put a bit of money in it and say we're looking after it and we're dealing with it, but we're actually not. I think we need to face things head on and stop enabling and actually really, so like you could help somebody, but it's like Aaron in school. Yes, he's got into school, but then the help wasn't there. But on paper, it looked great because he was able to go to school. But then when he got there, the help. So the practicalities of it all and the detail, as they say, the devil's in the detail, and there's not enough detail. And maybe the wrong people are making the detail because they're not actually on the ground knowing how to actually help people. And I think we focus on wrong things. So like people in domestic violence situations, we focus on the woman. Why aren't we focusing on the man, and why aren't we focusing on the boy, and why aren't we trying to change societal's way of thinking? As in, the first question always asked is, why didn't she leave? Well, why did he hit? Do you know what I mean? So I think we're capable of it, and I think we do need to change. And maybe there is a wind of change. I'm not so sure the way things go, and it's so slow, but definitely in the area I work in, I can see where the changes can come from. And it's not with the women. I think the women are going to make the changes, but it's not them that need to change. And I think we need to start much younger.
We might get into that on another conversation, because it's really, really deep and everything. Before we talk about children, are children going to school safely? Can you imagine a school whereby they need an armed guard at the door because it's a threat of active shooters happening, and with the availability of guns? When you hear that conversation being had on a regular basis in America, and it's all down to the availability of guns. And as someone who worked in the guards and in the proximity of evil and what people can do when they're bad-minded, do you have an opinion on that?
I have an issue with guns, and I suppose we're one of the few unarmed police forces. And I went during my training, I had to learn how to fire a gun. And me personally, I hated. I absolutely hated the sensation of it, hated the feeling of it, hated when I fired that gun, the idea that rightly or wrongly I could take somebody's life with that. And it scared me. I genuinely didn't like it. And I'm glad that we've remained unarmed to a certain extent. But like that, I think society, I couldn't imagine what it'd be like in schools here, to think that your kids aren't safe. It's bad enough on the internet now, and knowing that your kids, that's following them around all the time, and the bullying stuff, because again, we're not dealing with that correctly. But guns, it's horrendous. I couldn't imagine. I think I'd homeschool.
And your colleagues, would there have been occasions where they would have believed, in order to do this job properly, we need to be armed?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not on the ground. And you see, the other thing is, Greg, I think you need to be properly, I don't mean properly trained, but I think you need to be using your gun, and you need to be training in these scenarios all the time. And if you're the guard on the ground all the time, you're not going to have that opportunity, because you see all the bad things on the TV, but 99% of our jobs isn't going out there with people pointing guns at us. So we don't really need it. So you'd never get the opportunity to keep up that level of training. So what they've done now with these specialized units, the ASU they're called, they come out on units and they're training all the time, and they're doing all these drills and whatever on what they should do in situations. And that's the way it should be. I don't think, the local guard going down to meet the children in school needs to be armed.
Okay. So children came along during the course of this busy career where you're flying up the ranks, and Aaron, your favourite, came in the middle, apparently. Is this true? Is he your favourite child?
Well, the girls would say he is. And it's funny when you talk about children, Greg, and children coming along. We were trying for years, and we had to go through IVF. So our first two children, our first two miracles, were Aaron and Megan. Megan was first, then Aaron, after many years. And then luckily we got our third miracle, Caitlin. She came along all by herself. So yeah, we've three miracles in this house. So the girls would say Aaron's my favourite because I let him away with a lot.
Does she let you away with a lot, Aaron, does she?
Yep.
Are you my favourite?
Yes.
Yeah. And tell me, Aaron, how are you getting on? How is life treating you?
Good.
You're a busy lad. I know you're 14 now. You're in second year in school?
Yep, I am in second year.
Yeah. What school are you going to?
GCC.
What does DCC stand for?
It means GCC Community College.
St. Jocelyn Community College.
Okay. And what's your favourite subject in school?
Homework and music.
Okay.
And history.
And history.
Yeah.
Do you like history?
I do.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, you see, your mum is learning new stuff today on this podcast, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
So, home economics, I believe you like cooking. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. What's your favourite thing to cook?
My favorite thing to cook, let me think. Burger bolognese.
Oh, because I'm expecting an invitation to dinner. Is that all right?
Who said that?
You going to invite him for dinner?
I might away for dinner.
Okay, I'll bring the wine. Is that okay?
But it's up to your mum.
He hasn't got it. He's too old. He can make up his own mind.
Yeah, me too.
And tell me about music, because I know you like music, don't you?
I do have music because I love art to dancing.
Yeah.
And I love singing.
Oh, you like singing?
Yep,
Yeah. And do you listen to a lot of music yourself?
I do, yes.
Well, I used to have a music store, and I bet that your mum, if she was living in Clondalkin, would have bought some CDs there at one point in time.
Yep, she always does.
Yeah, I had a music store, Mary, in the Mill Centre.
All right.
Yeah, do you remember that black track?
I do remember that.
Yeah, many, many, many moons ago. And yeah, it was a nice little business.
Well, you'd be surprised what music is on Aaron's soundtrack now.
Go on, tell me, Aaron.
Tell him some of your favourite songs.
Oh my God, I can't remember. I've got loads of songs.
Well, name some of your favourites.
But Addictable.
Okay.
And the other one is I like ABBA.
Okay.
And
Madness.
Madness.
You like Madness?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's Mam's favourite band. One of Mam's favourite bands.
Yes. And I like this one as well from a band. My mum and her three sisters went there and they're like, wet, wet, wet.
Oh, I like them.
Me too. I like them as well.
Cool. And do you do a bit of dancing with the music, do you?
I do, yeah.
And I know you're into your sports as well. You play a bit of basketball?
I play basketball. I did, yes.
Yeah, you're part of the school team, are you?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Do you like Michael Jordan?
I love Michael Jordan.
Yeah?
Yep.
I know you're not a scaredy cat.
No, I'm not scared of cat.
Yeah. I know when you go, because you were in Orlando recently, weren't you?
I wasn't on there, yes, I am.
Yeah. And tell me, what did you get up to when you were there?
We did a lot of rides there.
Yeah. I believe on one day you did, how many?
15.
15 rides in one day.
No, 16.
Oh, 16, jeekers. And I presume you just do the little baby ones, do you? The ones that go around in circles. You wouldn't do any of the big, scary roller coaster ones. You wouldn't do them, would you?
I did.
Go away with that, because I heard you're a scaredy cat. Would you do the big roller coasters?
I think I went on this a very fast ride. It's called the Hawk Ride.
Oh, wow.
And it's fast.
And what about the one in Tato Park that you went on? Cullen.
I went on the Cullen.
Because your mum was telling me that when it comes to doing new things, even if it's doing the scary rides like the roller coasters, even though you might be a bit scared, it's no bother to you. You still go ahead and you do them.
When Aaron finds things difficult, he asks us lots and lots of questions about it.
Yeah.
And we talk about it. And then he pushes himself until he understands it. Until he overcomes it. He does his best.
Yeah, because you're on the Win Happy podcast, and this is a really serious question. I've got friends, and you know, Mary, as you get a bit older in particular, you stop doing new things. You become afraid of doing things. You try nothing, and life ends up being really boring. And one day ends up being the same as the other. So, Aaron, to people like that who won't try anything new, would you have any advice for them?
What do you do when you're trying something new? How do you get to do it?
I just do it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, I just go with it straight away.
Yeah.
He did this big thing, Craig, when he was away, which was really scary for him, but he did it. He went swimming with a dolphin.
Go away with that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, where was that?
It's the Scruffy Cove.
Okay.
But I've got a video here want to see it if you want.
You can send it on to him later.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm going to the video.
okay, brilliant. I'd love to see that. What was it like swimming with a dolphin? Are you a good swimmer?
I am pretty good with the mom.
Okay, because I'm afraid of the water. And I'd never end up swimming with a dolphin because, I just get afraid of the water. And a bit like, if I was like you, I think I'd end up just doing it and trying it and doing my lessons. But I was chicken. I was a scaredy cat. And I don't do it. And I'm 58 now. God almighty, I should sort myself out, shouldn't I?
Do you know how to swim?
Do you know, I did lessons when I was your age or maybe younger, and I used to get too afraid of it, and I'd skip the lessons. When my mum and my dad would take me for swimming lessons, I'd hide in the toilet.
I didn't hide in the toilet.
No, he did.
I'd hide in the toilet, and I'm just afraid of the water. So what do I need to do, do you think? Do I just need to get more lessons?
No, I got a better idea for you. If you were scared of the water, think in your head, go, I can do it. That means jump in and do it.
Okay, so just work on your mind and just keep thinking, keep telling myself I can do it.
If you keep saying, I will do it, that means you do the whole lessons.
Yeah. And I know you're really good at trying new things because you've even done a bit of modelling.
I do.
And a bit of acting.
I do a bit of modelling.
Can you tell me about that?
I still have I try, but okay. And I try to get a few clothes that I can wear.
Yeah.
And then a man takes a picture of me and post it. That means a lot of people see me in the shops, bus stops, and in town, and that kind of stuff.
So hold on a minute. I recognize you. Are you telling me that you're the guy that I saw on Christmas ads and on posters everywhere? You've one of the most famous faces in Ireland. Is this true?
It's very true.
How does that make you feel when you see yourself on TV or on a big poster?
I feel like happy and excited.
Ah, wow. That must make you really popular with everyone, does it?
Yeah, and if Mom saw me, he's gonna be like happy and upset.
Yeah?
You know, I said if my mom sees me, she might be happy and a little sad.
Oh.
Why a little sad?
Because you can see me.
Why would I be sad?
Going just my son.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
Oh, she's proud of you. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Now I see what's going on. You've met a few famous people along the way as well, haven't you?
Yes, I do have you. Knew that.
Yeah. How about Michael D., our favourite president? Did you meet him? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
And what did you speak to him?
French.
French?
Oh, sorry. Irish.
Ah. And tell me, I think you met the Taoiseach as well, did you?
Who?
On Taoiseach?
Yeah.
Yes.
An old one. You won't remember. And Kenny.
I don't know him.
No. you were only 4.
Yeah, I'm only 4.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you meet all the famous people. Now, tell me, did you meet Joe Biden today?
Joe Biden, no.
No, I thought he'd have wanted to meet you. You know, he's the American president. He's visiting Ireland at the moment.
Yeah. We saw him on TV last night, didn't we?
Yeah, and
who did he meet? We saw who we met last night. Do you remember?
No. James Molyneux, Howard Sky.
Okay.
He won the Oscar for the film.
Oh my God.
Yep. Because me and my sister Kikle from my dad are going out somewhere.
When you leave school and you start working, what would you like to do?
Leave school, who said?
Yeah, when you grow up, what you want to be.
That is a tough choice. A TV presenter.
Oh, TV presenter. Okay, God. What kind of a show do you think you'd like to present? Would it be a comedy? Would it be all action? Would it be interviewing people? What kind of a show do you think?
Interviewing people.
Oh, excellent. Would you interview your mum?
I might, yeah.
So if you were interviewing your mum now, what would the first question be for her?
How are you?
Okay, good. And the next question? Who's your favorite child?
No, I don't say that.
So, Mary, you're busy with your career. This fella crashes into the middle of it and he drags you into all sorts of things you never thought you'd end up having to do. You know, we spoke about the Gardaí and we spoke about Down Syndrome Ireland and being president. I believe something happened then a few years back that turned everything upside down again for you.
Yeah, 2 years ago while I was working, I was involved in a head-on car crash. And the lady who crashed into me, unfortunately, lost her life on the night. I ended up having to be cut out of the car and I broke my neck and my arm, damaged my liver, my legs, my shoulder. I'm literally just after having my 4th operation in 2 years on my shoulder there last week. So I'm still not back physically up to it. So it literally, from being so busy, and even during COVID, we were working 12-hour shifts. So I went from being so busy to literally not being able to get off the couch.
Oh my God. And has that changed your perspective on everything?
It did. And it just, I suppose it's a bit deep, but it was very eye-opening to me after the accident, because on the night that it happened, I went into Garda mode, I suppose, and I started to call out to tell people what to do or how to help the other lady because I was trapped in my car. I made phone calls to get the ambulance and to Simon and whatever. But when the ambulance man came over and asked me to list my injury, I asked him, would he secure my laptop first? And I think,
God almighty.
Yeah, that became an eye-opener to me, that being so busy for so long, somehow I'd fallen so far down the food chain that a laptop became more important to me when I was trapped in a car with a broken neck and a broken arm, you know. So it's definitely made me reevaluate how I see myself, and you know that I can't be all things to all people if I don't look after myself.
And you're still obviously recovering and processing all of that. And it's probably
I started a course last year to try and help me, my mental health, as they say, or try and help me come to terms with it, because it was hard, Greg, because you know, we had the coroner's court and unfortunately the other lady wasn't well and she had a lot of sleeping tablets in her system and she was speeding, so that's a lot to deal with as well on the night. So I started this course in coaching, so hopefully in May I'll qualify as a life and personal life and business coach. So yeah, that's helped me a lot. It's helped me realize the type of guard I was and the type of person I am and what my priorities are, that, you know, you can prioritize everybody else, but you have to also prioritize yourself at some stage.
And you've a lot of very interesting and deep and unusual life experience behind you from so many different aspects. That coaching and the coaching process, did you learn a lot from that?
I did. It's funny. I got a phone call off a colleague when he heard I was doing it, and it was a guard I used to work with. And he said, "Oh, if you need any reference, I'll give you a reference. You coached me out of the job 2 years ago." So, and then I got a lovely phone call off another supervisor who rang and reckoned I'd be really good at it because I'd been his confidant for nearly 30 years, you know. And when I did the coaching course and what they do, I have obviously been doing a certain element of that in the job. I have a different approach in the guards. I've been told that by their psychologists many times. I just take a different approach. And now I know why I take a different approach, and I know where that comes from, and I know how worthwhile it is that I do take the approach that I do, and how I ended up with Down Syndrome Ireland. So it just gave me a little bit more insight into myself.
What's that different approach, Mary?
I'm people-centered. And I can see why I wanted to do it. Like anything I do, I look at the person that I need to do it for, and the person who, like in the case of the guards who are investigating these horrendous crimes, I know they'll take care of the victims. So my job was to take care of the guard, because it is horrific crimes that we're dealing with. And it does, no matter how strong a person you are, it does take a little bit away from you each time you're investigating one and each time you hear a story. And it's important that I was there to make sure that they had that support, because I know they were supporting the victims. And then the same with people with Down syndrome. It was important to get their message across, not what I wanted as a parent, that's different for me, but I wanted to make sure that people heard them and what they wanted.
If I was to ask you if you have a superpower, what would you say it is?
I had a superpower, probably to see the person. And I heard that a lot. Like, I had a very humbling time after my accident. A lot of people came to the house, people I worked with in the guards in Down Syndrome Ireland, friends, and told me things that I had done for them that changed their lives that I didn't realize. So what normally people here are told at a wake to the family, people decided to tell me that. So I didn't realize that. I didn't realize I was doing that. And when you look back on all the wonderful things people said, it's just that I saw them for them. And I suppose if I think back throughout the job, I thought I was the troublemaker because I wanted to change rules. And I often heard, this is the way it's always been. And I used to go, well, that doesn't mean it's right, but it was always because of the person. The guard always came first. In situations where it was about work with Down Syndrome Ireland, it was the person with Down syndrome always came first. Nothing else mattered except for them, because that was my job.
In the same way that you say, all of those experiences impact the guards, I presume they impacted you as well and changed you bit by bit over time. And now you're probably deprogramming yourself, are you?
They do. And you can't, it's a thing called vicarious trauma, and it's recognized and you don't realize it. You become desensitized about certain things, and then you're hyper vigilant looking out for other things because of what you do. And I suppose the area that I work in particular, you're always on high alert. It's hard to get some of those images and some of those stories out of your head. It's something that you will just live with, but you still look at it as a privilege to be able to help those people the best way you can. And that's why when I was doing it as a guard, it was different. Then as I was doing as a guard, I went off to the Rape Crisis Centre to learn how to interview people, because I just thought that was important to make sure I didn't re-victimize them. And then as a supervisor, I felt my job was to look after the guards who was looking after the victims, because I was one step removed from the victims or the survivors. So my job was to look after the guards.
Do you have to leave that world now? Because obviously you're in the middle of a lot of horrible situations and evil and trouble and upset. It sounds to me like you've banked a lot of experience, and I know you're going to go coaching now, and the people-centered Mary, it sounds to me, with all that bank of experience, there's a cohort of people that need you deeply, but for your own well-being, do you need to leave that world now and just do different things?
Sometimes I think I do. Sometimes I feel like I'm not finished in that world yet. There's things that I'd like to have in place before I go. And for me, when the accident first happened, it was to get back to work within 6 months, which apparently was very unrealistic. So I've stopped putting dates on that and just sort of allowed. And even the course has taught me to live in the now, because thinking about tomorrow was just frustrating me because I wasn't getting there quick enough, and I didn't realize, I did a third operation last year, and then I was waiting for doctors to have another operation this year. So if you start putting time constraints on it, you just go out of your mind, so it's to live in the now. I still feel I'm really invested in the Garda organisation, as in I still like to help a lot of the guards who are investigating the crimes that I used to investigate. And then the coaching is going to help me only do that better. And then I'd like to help people outside. Like, I still like to advocate for people with Down syndrome. At the moment, myself and Aaron are in the middle of talking to businesses around the Dunchalklin area to see if they would get involved in employment opportunities for TY students, because Aaron is the first child with Down syndrome to go to the secondary school, and there's more coming behind him. So he'll be the first to do TY. So we're talking to some of the local businesses. Aaron's getting to know them here and trying to set up a training project before he needs to start his work experience for TY.
On the subject of superpowers, and I know Aaron is very humble, so he might be very slow to declare what his superpower is. He mightn't be that shy. I'm not sure, Mary. This will all be revealed. What's a superpower?
What are you really good at?
Oh, yeah.
Are you good to chatting with people
Yes.
and getting to know people?
Yes.
And I believe you got a good heart, and you're always checking in on your granny and your nanny, and you're always on the phone to your relatives, making sure everyone's okay, looking out for everyone.
Yeah, I do. All the time.
His teachers would say that he just lights up the school. He has a word to say to every teacher. He remembers every teacher. When he sees his French teacher, he only speaks French to her on the corridors. And he remembers little things about people. So the teachers would say if somebody was off and even their wife had a baby, when the person come back, he'd ask how the baby is. He remembers stuff like that.
Well, if you can brighten a room, I think that's some hell of a fantastic superpower to have. We're on the Win Happy podcast. Mary, what's happiness to you?
Happiness to me is, it's just one of those cliches, Greg. Happiness to me is just hearing my children laugh and dancing. I love dancing. I taught the kids very early on, if they're upset or whatever, we dance it off. That's the tradition here in this house. If we're feeling sad or whatever, we just turn on a bit of music and we dance it off. Don't we do a lot of dance offs?
Yes.
That's a good,
and you
good
can't
trick.
help but smile and move when there's music on and you start dancing. So, yeah.
Dance therapy.
And a good hug.
Dance therapy and hugs. That sounds like a really good medicine. And in terms of winning going forward, and I know it's very difficult after the accident and you're experimenting with new things. If I was to ask you what would winning look like, what would you say to me?
Winning. Right now, for me, Greg, winning, it would be able to put the accident behind me and just get back out to living again. There's definitely still challenges there, but we're getting there. And winning is just, living in the now and being true to yourself. That's really all you can do. And once you do that, and everything else falls into place. We only have now.
That's about it. So I'm going to leave you both with one last question. I'm going to start with Aaron. This is a really tricky one. Are you ready for this question? Are you?
I'm ready.
Oh, fair enough. What was your best day ever?
Best day ever. I like Fridays.
You like Fridays, cool.
But what was your best day, your happiest day of anything you ever
In your
did?
whole life?
Meeting a friend Adam.
Meeting his friend Adam.
Oh, wow. Why was that your best day?
Because I can hang out with him, play some games, go to the shop, buy something, like sweets or something, like that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's a special day. How about you, Mary? What was your best day ever?
Probably I have three best days. The birth of the three of them, I suppose, would be the cliche. But one of the best days I've had recently was swimming with dolphins.
Ooh, I like that one too.
Was that special?
It was probably because Aaron pushed himself that little bit, but even for myself, I found it quite healing to be with such a majestic animal. And just, I'm still not sure how I feel about them, where they are, but it was an unreal day. And my eldest daughter, Megan. So anything like that always are my best days.
Yeah, I have a little video. We were on holidays somewhere. I think it was in Cuba, and it was a trip out to one of these swim with dolphins. Of course, I just looked on. I wasn't going to dare do it because of my fear of the water. But I have a video of Dee, and the dolphin literally went along a row of people to give them all a little kiss. And Dee felt a little bit bad about them because they were in a concrete kind of structure or whatever. She just felt a bit guilty. So she stepped back because she just felt it was, I don't know, abusing the dolphin a little bit to be part of this kind of game with them. And the dolphin went back and kind of went, oh no, there's a problem here. I missed out one person, and came back to her and more or less insisted. It was lovely. And she said, it did feel very special being in their presence. And I guess if an animal makes you feel that way, that's something special, isn't it?
There is. They're just powerful. And I remember asking the question because on Discovery Cove, it's different to SeaWorld and they weren't performing like that. But the people were saying they do a lot of research, but that some of their dolphins have started to have babies. And they were saying they wouldn't reproduce if they weren't happy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was good. And we had one of the mums that was doing it to us, and she was great with Aaron. It's like she sensed that he was nervous because he didn't want to hold her the first time. And then she came back and she was just so quiet with him compared to everybody else the second time. And he got to hold her, it was, just something, it brings us back because that's what we're all connected. We're connected to the earth. We're connected with animals. We're connected to each other. And that's what we have to remember, I think.
Yeah, well, we share the earth with them. We're no more important than they are. We're all in this together. And when you say he was hugging her, is it literally you hold on to them and they go swimming off, or how did it work?
There was two. There was one where he held on to her and just got a picture. So she just held there. And then the second one, he went off and he holds on to her two fins and she took him along on a little swim. Literally, he swam holding on to her, and so did I, and so did Megan.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you hold on to their fins and they take you for a little swim. Unreal experience now, yeah.
Was that scary, Aaron?
No, it's not really scary. Really.
Was at the beginning, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the dolphin go fast? Did it swim fast?
Not too fast.
Not too fast, okay. Maybe the dolphin knew you were a tiny bit nervous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
But at least you did it, and it's something I wouldn't do, so fair play to you.
Thank you.
Maybe someday, Greg. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. I have to get past my fear, I swear to God. And it's in my head.
They try something new, especially as you get older. You should try and do something outside your comfort zone every day.
Yeah.
And I would have done a lot of that in Orlando because the things I used to be able to do, like go on roller coasters, I obviously wasn't able to do because of my injury.
Yeah.
So I had to choose other things to do. So swimming with dolphins and snorkeling and all that was something different.
Snorkeling.
Nervous, but different.
Yeah, God. Again, I can't even get my head around that. I'd be like, oh, not going to happen.
You need to just dip your toe in the water.
I think so. Mary, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And Aaron, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, you've been a champion guest. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, take it easy out there.
Thanks a million, Craig.
Yeah.
Lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Win Happy podcast, which has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to send me an email at greg@fusion.ie. So until next time, take it easy.